Okay, so here's a picture from 2 years ago when I was with a group of people in the psychological consultant training with Frank.
对，这个好像是2年以前老师另外一个课，就是我们在给另外一个这个也是心理咨询的课程讲课。
And then Shishawan and I were doing a workshop together one time, and one of the participants made this cute drawing.
那次西轩老师也在，这是一个学员画的 from Hong Kong, right? That's traditional Chinese, not simplified. So that's from Hong Kong, that's our Taiwan.
You think it is? Oh,
yeah.
Frank thinks this was in Hong Kong.
对，这是应该是一个港台的学员们，他写的繁体。
That's when Shishawan had her hair going like this, and she had these big, dramatic glasses.
对，这个是那时候那个西轩老师，他不是有一段把时间头发剃特别短，然后戴个大眼镜吗？
Okay, and we'll come back to this one. Okay, so someone was asking about the framework or the assumptions of collaborative dialogue. And someone was wanting to know, they didn't ask it exactly like this in terms of the history of the development, but let me start there. Let me first say that I do not think that a collaborative dialogic approach to consulting or counseling is better than any other approach. Okay? I do not think it is a better or a superior approach. I think what is most important is that you find a way of working and you find a set of assumptions that you are comfortable with, that fit with who you are, that allow you to use your own style, and that allow you to be your most capable, competent, confident, and creative self.
那大家其实很多人都提到了，比如说我把那个大家提的总结那个板上了，就是如果有漏的，大家可以告诉我。老师说呢，他说很多人都老问这个合作对话背后的这个假设和它的框架是什么样子的，有的人不是直接问的，也会问，就是问相似的问题，比如说这个合作对话开展的历史，老师想从这里开始讲课，但是之前他要表明一个什么立场呢？就是他会认为合作对话并不比任何其他一种方法高明。他说他从来没有任何意思说这个合作对话比其他的这个谈话咨询的方法要好，只是另外一种方式。然后他说每个人呢，你其实是应该就是学习不同的方式啊，然后找到那个跟你自己的这个价值观呢，跟你自己的风格呀最契合那个方式。然后你要是用对了这个找到那个合适自己那个方法以后啊，就找那种最能够让你自己，比如说觉得有能力啊，觉得有信心，并且也觉得比较舒服的方式来做咨询。
For me, that's the most important thing. So I very much like the way that I work because I feel creative and confident and competent, that I can meet anyone with any kind of life situation and be able to develop a relationship and a conversation with them that has the potential to be useful.
对，所以说老师说呢，这个对他来说，他会认为是最重要的事啊。他就说他比如他本人，他就非常喜欢用，就是找到了他自己个人一个方式嘛。他说这个对你好的方式，应该是让你自己感觉你不仅这个很有能力、有信心，而且也能够在里面比较有创造性的这个帮助这个来访者。他说这种信心就是不论对方是任何一个什么样的一个人，或者遇到什么样的问题呢，我都能跟他建立一个关系。在这个关系里面呢，其实我能够跟他有一个对话，这个对话可能对他是有用的，这是他的那个信心的来源。
And research shows that all approaches to consulting and counseling are equally effective.
说其实过去有那个研究，就是心理咨询有效性的时候啊，他们其实发现各种这个咨询的方法，它基本上是同样有效的。
And that when it's not effective, it's usually not the framework from which you're working, but it's you, it's me, it's us. The way we're interpreting and trying to apply what we think we might know.
所以说，如果有时候，比如说这个效果不好的时候，不是这个疗法或者这个方法有问题，这是你自己用错了。就咱们要自己反思，是自己用的东西就自己的用法有问题，而不是某个框架有问题。
So, narrative therapy, collaborative dialogic practice, solution-focused therapy, all grew out of the family therapy movement in the United States.
另外呢，就是其实他说，这个叙事疗法呀和这个焦点解决还有合作对话，其实都是源自于在美国曾经有一个就是这个家庭治疗运动，都是从这里面生发出来的。
Where those of us and our colleagues who were trying to develop newer approaches were trying to respond to what we were experiencing as changes in the world and changes in the way that cultures and societies are changing, and the challenges that people in our contemporary world and lives were meeting.
老师说，当他跟他同事们其实在开发这种新的这种，比如说咨询方法是为什么？是因为他们其实深深地感到了，就是那个时间段，那个时间段里边，整个这个社会都在变，就是整个这个世界的体验啊，大家对自我、对社会的看法呀，其实都有了很大的一个变化，所以他们会觉得需要一种比较新的这个治疗的方法。
One of the things that we were experiencing and noticed in working with people in different countries around the world is that most people, and this is my language for their language, wanted to have a voice.
The family therapy movement, what is that, 1960s or 50s?
Well, it really started in the late 50s, but this, the major shift really began in the late 70s and early 80s.
Oh, okay. So, okay. 因为他包括我刚才问他一个什么，就是这个家庭治疗这个运动啊，其实它一开始最早的发端大概是1950年左右，但是其实后来比较强烈的这个增长是在那个1960年、70年左右。
In other words, people wanted to have a voice in defining their own needs, in defining their own problems, and in participating in making decisions that would influence their lives.
那他们在这个时代啊，就是发现一些什么呢？就是世界发生怎样变化呢？他说他们听到各种来自不同文化背景或者国家的人啊，都有这样的一些变化。就是很多人都会开始觉得需要有自己的声音了，然后需要就是发现就是需要用自己的声音来定义自己的生活呀，定义自己的问题呀，而且在比如说解决的时候，自己也特别愿意，就是也希望能够参与这个解决。
In other words, we were finding that people in their everyday lives were pushing against hierarchical structures and hierarchical systems.
也就是说，他们发现这人们有什么变化？就是原来的社会不是那种层级有序的这么一个金字塔结构，一个结构嘛。他说，发现更多的人实际上在这个挑战或者反对这种就是层级性的这种社会结构或者社会秩序。
In which someone or some group of people in a authoritarian position, a position of power, was making decisions for them. So it was a movement against what you would think of as sort of top-down decisions or instructions on how we should live our lives or how our children should be educated.
所以他说这种实际上是一种等于是一种造反嘛，就是实际上大家很不满意过去那个社会结构，就是它是自顶向下的，权威会告诉你应该怎么生活或者应该怎么教育自己的孩子。现在很多人都对这种权威的这个自上向下的方式不满意，于是开始这个反感和用不同的方式来生活。
So my colleagues and I began to try to pay very, very, very careful attention to what people were telling us, what people were sharing as the stories of their lives.
所以从那个时候开始呢，老师说他跟他的同事们啊，就会对于这个跟他们讲这个分享人生故事人对他们讲的内容，他说就开始非常的集中注意力去关注他们到底讲的是什么。
And at the time that we began to develop the practice that I now call collaborative dialogic approach, we were working with a lot of people who you might think of have multiple problems or who come from disadvantaged families or life situations.
老师说，在他们这个创造和发展这个合作对话那个过程中啊，他们很多的客户就是跟他们一起工作的人，实际上都来自于有些时候咱们认为是那个，比如说这个，来自于这种有很多问题的家庭啊，或者说来自于这种非常弱势的群体。
And they had lots of different kinds of professionals try to help them, whether it was a professional counselor, or therapist, a teacher, a football coach, a judge.A priest.
他说在他们那个工作过程里啊，就是帮助这样的人或者家庭的时候，其实有很多专业人士一块儿来帮助他们，比如说一个客户、一个人或者一家的。这里面比如说包括有可能有一个心理咨询的人，然后有一个比如说精神科的人，然后可能有一个甚至是这个人，比如说这个小孩他的那个学校的足球教练，然后或者呢他社区的比如说这个法官或者甚至是牧师。
So we began to think.That if the people we were working with had been to all these different kinds of helpers, some of whom we knew, and we knew they were very capable, very good at what they did, but the people still had the same or similar kind of problem, we thought something's wrong.
对，可是你会看到，就是这些人可能他们其实已经有那么多人来帮助他了，而且这些人其实都是受过训练的，然后都是专业上挺有能力的。可是这些人费了那么大劲以后呢，你会看那个对方依然是那个灾难深重，依然是在问题里面打转。
So we began to ask the people we were working with, did they think something was wrong? What were their experiences of working with these other professionals?
所以他们后来就开始问什么呢？问那个客户或者问那个来访者，他说：“那你们觉得就是跟这些专业人士相互工作的里面是不是有些问题啊？就是你们跟这些专业人士，你接受他们的帮助或者辅导的时候，你是到底是怎样感觉的？”
Was there something the other professionals did or did not do that was not helpful to them?
他说：“那些专业人士来帮助你的时候，他到底做了什么或者没有做什么，于是他没能帮助到你。”
And we began to learn a lot of things that really caught our attention and began to influence how we were working.
从这种问询里边啊，他们其实得到了很多这个反馈信息，那些反馈信息其实开始告诉他们应该如何更好的工作。
They said things like that they made suggestions or gave them advice that just didn't really fit with them and their values or their lifestyle.
比如说客户会反馈呢，说这些专业人士给出来那个建议啊，不是跟我的价值观冲突，就是不太适合我的那个生活风格或者方式。
They felt often that the professional, again, whether it was a consultant or a counselor or a teacher or a judge, they began to feel that the professionals were not really interested in them.
另外一个就是来访者他会觉得，就是无论他跟他工作那个人是谁啊，你是老师还好，是咨询师也好，或者是法官或者牧师也好，他说他感觉这些专业人士其实并对他们本人并不感兴趣。
They didn't feel like they were being respected.
他们也感觉不到被那些人尊重。
And they didn't feel like the people who were trying to help them really understood what they were trying to tell them about their lives and their problems and what they wanted.
他们感觉这些专业人员虽然在听他们说话啊，其实并没有太认真去听，也并没有真正的理解他们到底在说什么。
They said things that, in my words, that they felt like the professionals seemed to think they already knew them without giving them an opportunity to kind of teach the professional about them in their lives.
说他们的感觉是每次谈话的时候呢，这个对方这个专业人士啊，提供帮助这个人好像都早已经知道他们的事情了，所以他们根本不给这个来访者以任何机会说我要教你来理解我的生活。
So we began to think about a word that you've used many times already this morning, respect.
所以在这里边你会看到，大家早晨很多人都提到那个尊重，就是这个实际上是他们的一个想法之一。
How to be with the people we work with so that they feel we are respectful of them and that we are treating them with respect.
就是怎么样换一个不同的工作方式啊，让那个对方就是来访者感觉，就是咱们实际上对对方是尊重的，因为或者说咱们是尊重对方的。
And that respect is like a two-way street. If you want someone to respect you, you must respect them.
而且尊重实际上是一个双向的嘛，就是你要想别人尊重你的话，你就必须先尊重别人。
And by respect, I mean that you treat someone so that they feel their dignity is not being taken away.
当这里咱们提到这个尊重的时候啊，其实一般是这样的，就比如说你对对方采用一种方式，让对方觉得自己是有尊严的，你没有剥夺对方的尊严。
That they feel, that we feel, spending time with them is important.
让对方感觉到啊，就是咱们自己有一种态度，就是我觉得跟你在一块儿花一些时间，这是很重要的事情，这种态度。
And that they feel that we appreciate their life situation and what they're concerned about and what they want help with, regardless of what that is.
然后另外呢，就是他们期望有那种态度，就是这个专业人士，他真正的重视对方的这个生活的处境啊，和对方的这个问题。
So we began to think that in our work, that it's human beings being with each other. As professionals, as psychological consultants, you're a human being working with another human being or multiple human beings, regardless of what walk of life you come from.
所以老师他们就开始换了一种视角啊，就是当你工作的时候，不管你的职业如何，你在跟客户在一块儿的时候呢，无论你的专业或者说你的什么这样的程度，其实就是一个人跟另外一个人相遇，就是两个人类在相遇。
And listening has always been an important part of being a professional helper, being a good listener, but we began to think about it in a slightly different way.
然后另外呢，他们就开始觉得好像做一个很好的聆听者其实挺重要的，但是他们有一些不太一样的方式来解读这个什么叫做好的聆听者。
That there's a way of listening that signals or communicates to the other person that you really are listening and you really are trying to understand what they want you to understand.
其实咱们这个聆听这个方式本身啊，就在给对方传递信号，就是你到底是不是真的对他说的感兴趣啊，或者你是不是真的在试图理解对方。
So we began to realize how easy it is to assume that you know what the other person is saying or thinking.
所以他说在他们的研究里面，他们就会发现啊，咱们其实很容易就是很容易就会觉得自己已经知道对方在说什么了。
And how easy it is to assume that we know what the other person should be saying or thinking.
然后很容易咱们就会掉到这个圈里边，认为就是咱们实际上知道对方应该说什么东西。
So we began to think how important it is to listen very carefully, to listen very attentively, and to respond to what you think you are hearing.
所以他们就会说，在这聆听过程中呢，他们就会觉得你需要特别的小心，而且特别的注意，而且对于你自己到底听到了什么，你实际上要跟对方有回应。
To respond, meaning making comments verbally, with your body, with your eyes. To respond with questions, to help you, what I call check out. To make sure that you are understanding as best you can understand what the other person wants you to understand.
那当他说这个回应的时候呢，他说一方面就是你那个语言和那个肢体语言和你的这个就是非语言的这个表达和语言表达嘛。另外一个方面呢，实际上你会问一些问题，然后这些问题呢，其实就是传递出来，就是你是在竭尽全力的想要理解对方想让你理解的东西。
And how very easy it is, as I said a moment ago, to make assumptions and assume that you understand and know the other person.
而且实际上咱们很容易就自以为是的觉得自己已经完全了解对方和他的处境了。
And often that can begin with their contacting you, wanting an appointment to talk about something important in their lives, and we can immediately assume that we know what they're coming in with and what needs to be done.
有时候甚至是在对方一预约跟你有一个会面，要谈他们生活的事儿的时候，你听到这个预约本身，人家还没来呢，你可能就已经知道他大概是什么样的，来大概要讨论什么样的问题了。
And we also begin to appreciate that people, no matter, again, what walk of life they come from, have their own resources.
另外一点呢，就是他们又发现一个什么，就是他们觉得，这个专业人士其实需要开始真正足够重视啊，就是对方来的这个人，他身上也带着一些这个资源。
Like you've already begun to demonstrate in this room this morning, the kind of resources that you bring to this learning event.
其实就包括咱们今天早晨这个大家这个互动问答里，其实已经看到了，咱们来的各位身上已经带了不少的资源来投入咱们的学习了。
So we began to experience our clients differently, and that led us to start reading some things outside of the traditional psychology and psychotherapy literature.
所以呢，实际上老师说他们就开始啊，就是有一种不同的方式来体验这个跟来访者之间的互动。那于是呢，就让他们下一件事儿呢，他们就自然的会去读一些不是那个传统的这个心理咨询方面的这些书籍。
So we began to pay attention to different kinds of theories, like theories of language, theories of dialogue. We began to pay attention to different philosophical positions, understandings.
所以他们就开始扩展阅读啊，他们读了很多什么东西呢？有一些关于这个语言的理论，关于对话的理论，和一些不同的这种哲学的这种立场。
And so we began to think in terms of assumptions that serve as a framework. You've used the language of framework. Assumptions that inform our work.
所以他们开始考虑到，实际上咱们背后啊，咱们每个人身上带着的假设，实际上它会指导你真正怎么去行为，怎么去工作。
Assumptions that we found helpful in terms of how we think about ourselves, how we think about the people we work with, what we do together, and how we do it.
然后他们也看到了一些假设，就是这些假设就是我们怎么看待我们自己，我们怎么看待我们的工作和对方。
And I began to call these orienting assumptions.
于是呢，他就是感觉咱们那个教材里有的，这就是他说那个叫 orienting assumption 嘛，就是它实际上是指导你立场的一些假设。
And I'll share and talk about 3 orienting assumptions, or 3 assumptions that are part of the framework that informs what I do and how I think about what I do, how I think about myself and the people I work with.
对，所以说他现在想跟大家分享3个，就是合作对话或者老师整个思想体系背后的那个指导性的假设。
So the first one has to do with always being questioning, skeptical about what you think you know.
那第一个假设实际上是第一个指导假设是什么呢？他就说，对于你自己已经觉得自己知道了什么，对于自己认为自己知道的东西，始终保持一个质疑和批判的一个态度。
And to say it simply, it means to be an informed consumer. Know why you're buying a particular product.
所以其实换一个视角来讲啊，这其实跟让大家做一个这种就是这个聪明的或者说这个深思熟虑的消费者一样，就是当你买一个东西的时候，你会做调研，确信知道你自己在买什么。
So another way of thinking about it is that we are born into, we live in, we love in, we work in, we swim in various knowledge systems or various knowledge discourses.
其实也就是说，咱们每个人啊，从你出生开始，你在生活里面，其实咱们一直都会处于某种这个知识体系里面，处于某种话语体系里面。
And we just take in that knowledge, and we never really pause and step back and reflect and think carefully as to how that knowledge is useful for us or how it might have limitations in terms of what we can do.
但是咱们很少就是退一步回来反思啊，就是你待的这个话语体系里边，或者你待的这些常用的知识啊，这些知识它好多时候它到底是帮助你啊，它还是损害你，它是促进你的生活还是影响你的生活？
And it doesn't mean that you should throw away all that you think you know or throw away all you've learned in your education experiences.
这么说呢，其实并不是说让你就把以前都知道的东西或者习以为常的那些东西、信念啊什么的全都给抛弃掉。
It just simply means know why you're working within a particular framework. And again, what opportunities it helps you have and how it may imprison you in some way or another.
而是实际上就是你往后退一步看到啊，就是你生活里面这些，比如说约定俗成啊，这些所谓的知识什么的，它到底是比如说什么时候，就是你为什么有这些信念的，然后还有这些信念对你来说到底是机会呀，还是这个阻碍？
So number one, be an informed consumer of knowledge.
所以第一点就是实际上对待知识的态度是一个明智的消费者的态度。
Be questioning, be critical of what you think you might know.
就是对于自己知道什么保持一个这种警醒啊，保持一种这种质疑。
And evaluate how it helps you or how it does not help you.
同时也评估，就是你觉得自己知道这些东西，它到底是帮助你了呢，还是给你形成障碍了或者困扰你？
Okay, so the second assumption in the framework has to do with what I call generalizing knowledge or generalizations.
然后这个第二个这个假设呢，实际上跟老师第二个这个指导方针、指导假设呢，跟咱们现在所说的这种叫泛化或者概括化有关系。
So for example, that often when you work from a particular theory, the theory tells you what's wrong, what it would look like if it's corrected, if the problem is solved, and it tells you there's certain skills and techniques to move you from this problem to this solution or resolution.
因为咱们其实肯定每个人都学过一些理论呐，比如说心理咨询的理论，它一般都会告诉你，就是什么东西是错误的一种症状，然后什么是正常的、是好的，然后它也会提供一些技能呢，让你比如说把这个东西给它修好，把这个人从这个错误带到这个正确的。
So in other words, if working from a theory, as if the theory provides you a recipe or step-by-step instructions what to do, there's the risk of generalizing.
一般来说呢，你如果用这种理论指导工作，就咱们一般都是这么做的啊。这个理论它会有一个配方或者有一个那种一步一步的这个流程，但是这个时候其实你这个概括化把问题抽象了或者概括化的风险就很大。
So by generalizing, it means that you think from your experiences and your learning that you've seen this kind of woman before, you've seen this kind of problem before, and you already know about it before the person has a chance to really tell you about it from their perspective.
因为用这种理论的框架和这种步骤思维啊，一般情况下就会给你造成一种感觉，就是对方还没有说几句呢，你就觉得这个人你其实这种问题你以前遇见过，或者这个问题你听说过，然后就是你实际上不会再想去了解更多的信息了，你就觉得你已经知道了。
So a risk of generalizing is like labeling people or placing people in categories or placing problems as this is a big problem that needs a big solution, or this is a small problem that only needs a little solution.
这个泛化的这个方法之一就是泛化这个错误的方法之一就是用标签嘛，或者说就是你开始把人分成某种不同的类型，然后或者你开始定义什么这个问题是一个比较严重的大的问题，你需要帮他解决，那个问题是一个比较就是不值得花精力的小的问题，开始做这种分类。
So in other words, you can think in terms of being familiar or unfamiliar with someone or what they're bringing in that they want help with.
那所以换句话说，就是有些时候你会用这种方式，就是可以用这个方式来思考，就是你到底是不是很熟悉，或者说实际上你还是竭尽全力让自己去保持那个陌生的那种想要了解的心态。
And when you experience something as familiar, and you think you already know about it before the person's really had an opportunity to talk to you very much, and you have not had the opportunity to be inquisitive and learn more about it, you lose your curiosity.
所以其中如果你要是觉得对方提的问题你非常熟悉的话，就是哪怕对方可能一张嘴没说几句，你就开始感觉这东西我很熟悉，这我以前见过，那个时候呢，其实你就不太愿意听对方说下去了，你就失去了你那个好奇心。
Okay, so then the third assumption has to do also with knowledge. These all have to do with knowledge and knowing. And that is to be respectful of and find the value of what is called local knowledge.
那第三个这个指导假设呢，实际上他说所有的假设都跟知识有关啊。他说第三个实际上是这种，就是你会尊重啊，并且你会感觉，就是你会这个珍惜对方的这个所谓叫本地知识。
In other words, begin to have an awareness and an appreciation of the knowledge that each person you work with brings with them about themselves and their life situation.
什么叫本地知识呢？就是每次来找你的这个来访者，他本身带来的一堆关于他的生活是怎么样的，他是怎么想的这种知识。
In terms of the beliefs they bring with them, the wisdom they bring with them, the language they bring with them, and by language I mean not just the spoken or the written word.
就包括这个来访者来找你的时候，他的比如说他的信念啊，他的这种观点啊，他的这种偏好啊，甚至他的语言，也就是他找你说，比如说他会管一个某个东西用什么样的语气，或者管他做什么样的称呼，这种语言。
And that no matter how impoverished you may think a person is in terms of intellect or in terms of financial resources or life experiences, that each person has his or her own wisdom about their life and the resources, that each person has his or her own resources.
所以换句话说呢，就是不论对方啊，他找你的时候，他这个处境有多么的这个不论什么财务上啊，或者是他那个比如说教育程度上啊，无论他这个处境有多么的不好，实际上他对他自己的生活都有一些智慧，都有一些这个有价值的东西。
So I began to think in terms of the people that I work with are the experts. I'm not the expert on anyone else's life in terms of what's wrong with it or what should be right about it.
所以于是他们就开始有这种想法，就是来找你工作的这些来访者呢，其实他们本身是对他们自己生活的专家，就是他会比你更清楚他的生活里面有什么地方需要改善啊，出了什么问题。
That doesn't mean that I don't think I do not have any kind of expertise, because I do not believe that. I believe I do have some expertise.
但是这个并不是说咱们就会认为自己其实没有或者不需要任何的这个专业能力。他说实际上咱们也是有很多的专业能力的。
But it's not in terms of what's wrong with another person or their relationships or their lives, or that I know how they should do their life or their relationships differently.
对，但是他说咱们虽然有自己的这个专业训练、专业能力，但并不能自以为是的认为咱们知道别人应该怎么活，他的生活里面到底出了什么问题，或者他应该怎么改善。
But it means that I think I have some ability to create a kind of space, kinds of relationships, and kinds of conversations with others that help them create the resolution or the solution or the way forward in their lives that fits with them best.
所以呢，实际上这专业人士的这个能力在哪儿呢？他就会说认为，这个能力就是那种创造一个这个空间、创造一个关系和创造一种对话的能力。那他创造出来这个对话呢，在这里边这个客户自己呢，他会找到一些就是对他的这个生活的处境的最好的一些改善或者办法。
So I think we are all susceptible to being the expert on someone else's life, to offer suggestions, to offer advice that just doesn't fit for them.
对，所以说老师就会说，他就说咱们就需要质疑自己，给对方提建议的这种能力，就是咱们一般提出来的建议很难真正的适合客户的这个生活。
So when we can use the expertise, the resources, the wisdom that our clients bring, then what we create together will be more useful to them, will be more relevant, and they will more likely be able to move forward in their lives the way that they want to.
所以用这种态度呢，可能大家就会更想到去用这个来访者带来的智慧，就是他带来的资源，来帮助他在他的那个生活环境下呢，一块儿跟来访者一块儿创造这个解决方案。而这个方案跟他生活更贴近呢，他们真正去执行、去更好的改变的可能性也就更高。
So these are three assumptions that invite us to have a different, to use the terminology mindset, a different mindset, a different perspective.
所以这三个呢，实际上就是这个三个假设呀，导致了老师说他们开始用一种不同的这个心智模式啊，或者不同的这种方式来工作。
Regarding the people we work with, regarding what we can expect of ourselves.
用一种不同的视角来看来访者他是怎么样的一个处境，然后用不同的视角来定位咱们自己的位置。
And for me, I think in terms of being with another person or a group of people in a way that's more natural, more spontaneous, and that allows me to be who I am.
他说实际上这种情况下呢，你就会用一种不同的更加自然啊，更加自发的方式，更加那个就是做你自己的那个方式来跟客户进行接触。
In other words, as professionals, we often try to follow a recipe, or structured steps that don't fit with who we are or who the people we work with are.
他说换句话说，就是好多时候这个专业人士呢会学到一些这个理论体系的方法，你就会一步一步的走。其实这些步骤呢，它不仅不符合可能你的这个风格和偏好，也不符合客户的生活。
Okay, so I'm going to pause for a couple of minutes and have a sip of tea or something liquid, because where I live, it's near the Gulf of Mexico, and so it's very humid. In Beijing, it's very dry. You may not think it's dry, but compared to where I live, it's like living in a Swedish sauna. You can almost feel the wetness in the air.
老师说他要稍微暂停一下喝杯水，因为这个他所居住那个墨西哥湾那个地方啊，这个浓度就是这个湿度是非常高的。北京其实是非常干的，咱们感觉不出来，但是他那个地方好多时候就有点像那个桑拿那样，那个湿度非常大。
Okay, so then what I want you to do while I'm taking a couple of sips of tea or water is to talk with each other at your table and share what you've been thinking, what's been rolling around in your head as I've been talking. Okay?
那老师说，大家在喝水的时候呢，希望大家做一个相互的组内的讨论，就是你听到老师刚才讲的这个三个立场啊，和他那个这个来由的时候，你是怎么想的，或者你有什么想法？
So I must warn you that I will invite you to speak, and then I will rudely interrupt you.
所以说，就是老师说这个课程因为时间有限嘛，肯定会这样，他不停地邀请大家相互聊天，但是然后又不停地会打断大家。
So let me give you 3 or 5 minutes to talk with each other.
所以这次只给大家大概3-5分钟的时间，相互讨论一下。
Okay? Thank you.
好，现在开始。